The Aussie Report. News and information concerning corruption across Australia. G'day folks, Mad Aussie here and welcome to The Aussie Report. I have a two-part for you, as in I want to introduce you to the Kangaroo Court of Australia website and their YouTube, as well as read out an article from theirs for you. So the Kangaroo Court of Australia is run by, Shane Dowling. He writes books over here on the right, as you'll see. The YouTube is also called Kangaroo Court of Australia. Both these will be linked in the description below. Writes articles and produces short YouTube videos with news and information. So check these out, and I'll read this all out for you and play some videos along the way. So to start with, the title is Governor General David Hurley colludes with Scott Morrison to steal $18 million from taxpayers. This is written by Shane Dowling on April the 10th, 2022. Also, Shane has comments opened up at the bottom of his articles here. If you want to come and leave a comment on the article itself, feel free to do so. And goes on to say, Scott Morrison was exposed on Thursday, the 7th of April 2022, as being the key decision maker in collusion with Governor General David Hurley for giving $18 million of taxpayers' money to a charity, the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited, that doesn't exist except on paper. What makes this matter so scandalous is because we have two witnesses that have identified Scott Morrison as being personally involved and the decision maker to hand over the $18 million, and one of those witnesses is Governor General David Hurley. Normally Scott Morrison would duck and weave and blame others, but he won't be able to get out of it this time unless he blames the General Governor David Hurley, and then we probably have a constitutional crisis in the making if we are not already there. Scams like this have been a common theme with Scott Morrison and his government, with one example being the awarding of contracts in 2019 totaling $423 million to the company Paladin, who had virtually no money or assets, and their head office was at a beach shack on Kangaroo Island. The Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited is reported to have no office, website or staff, and apart from 3 directors, and several sources have told the ABC that its executive officer and director, Chris Hartley, boasted that he had secured federal support more than a year before it was publicly announced. Promotional brochures published earlier this last year and seen by the ABC claimed vice-regal and government endorsement of the program. Months after Mr. Hartley declared the program had government support, he registered the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited as a charity in April 2021, with an official launch held at Admiralty House in May. And the government refuses to provide answers about charity listings. As we go through the article, there is links to click more. So if you guys come back to read yourself, you can dig a bit deeper. Then on Friday, 8th of the 4th, 2022, it was reported the Governor General David Hurley personally lobbied Prime Minister Scott Morrison about a leadership program that was later allocated more than $18 million in federal funding. For the past 2 years, Mr. Hartley, who is one of the 3 directors of the foundation and its secretary, gathered support for his leadership program and successfully asked the Governor General to pitch the proposal to the Prime Minister. The ABC has seen correspondence in which Mr. Hartley boasted that the Governor General had given a PowerPoint presentation to Mr. Morrison in late 2020. A spokesperson for the Governor General confirmed there had been several conversations between him and Mr. Morrison dating back to 2020. And we have an update video here with just a little bit more information, which says here, updated 11th of the 4th, 2022, I have published the below video on YouTube raising some more points regarding the issues outlined in this article, and I'll go ahead and play this video for you now.
G'day, it's Shane Dowling here from kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now, I've just published my latest article, and that relates to the Governor-General, General David Hurley, colluding with Scott Morrison to rip off the Australian taxpayer another $18 million. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the big issue here is the fact that the Governor-General has lobbied the Prime Minister directly himself, multiple conversations, including a PowerPoint presentation the Governor-General gave directly to Scott Morrison. And it's got all the hallmarks of the other frauds and thefts that Scott Morrison and his government have been up to. It goes to a charity, the Australian Futures Leaders Foundation, which is very, very dodgy to say the least. That until recently it never existed except on paper. No office, no website, no nothing. Which is very similar to Paladin, which is given a $400 million contract when it only had a beach shack on Kangaroo Island as its headquarters. So it's very similar from that regards into Paladin. It's very similar to Lee Coleman, a good friend of Scott Morrison. He spoke about him in his inaugural speech when he entered Parliament in 2007. He thanked him. And now Lee Coleman has been given over $100 million in government contracts. Until recently, I wrote an article about that only a month or two ago. And once again, that's set up as a charity. And he doesn't seem to do anything other than win government contracts, predominantly defence contracts, and then subcontract them to other people. So he's just a middleman, skimming a bit of cream off the top. Now back to this Australian Futures Leaders Foundation. Now the three people involved seem to be same three people involved in another foundation they've set up, or charity they've set up. So it seems to be a routine that they've used at least twice. The other so-called charity, I don't know if they've made any money from the government or been given any grants. But the problem you got is the bottom line is that you've got the Governor-General, who's meant to be independent of the government, lobbying the Prime Minister to give grants to an organisation that doesn't even exist. Now, the 18 million is spread out over a few years. I think this financial year they get 3.6 million, and the rest will be spread out over the next 3 or 4 years. But that is a major issue that, especially with the federal election afoot, we're in the campaign now. The Prime Minister announced the election yesterday, set down I think for May 21st off the top of my head. That is an issue that should be put to the Prime Minister. It should be put to the opposition leader, Anthony Albanese, in relation to this dodgy $18 million. Is it legally, well, constitutionally allowed for the Governor-General to lobby the Prime Minister for some cash, some readies, to give to his mates, to an organisation that doesn't even exist except on paper? Now, I noticed the media today are jumping up and down. Oh, Anthony Albanese doesn't know the unemployment rate and he doesn't know the cash rate. The cash rate is just the interest rate that the financial institutions charge each other overnight, for the overnight lines, I mean. I had to look that up. I didn't know myself, but I couldn't give a shit, really. I'd much rather the media start asking Anthony Albanese and Scott Morrison about the Governor-General interfering in Australian politics, the Australian budget. Has he done it before as well? That's an issue that we should all know the answer to. And I'd rather the Australian media start focusing on that. I'll be reporting over the next 6 weeks in relation to the federal election. So make sure you follow my site, Kangaroo Court of Australia. You can sign up for the free email notification and you'll be notified as soon as there's a new article on there. And other than that, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Twitter account, Facebook page, etc. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Okay, so that was a quick look at one of Shane's videos, and yeah, from the Kangaroo Court of Australia. Please go and give him a follow and a like and all that good stuff. And this goes on to say, since when has it been the role of the Governor-General to promote to the Prime Minister a charity that is not registered, does not have an office, does not have a website or staff, the Governor-General should be called before a Senate Estimates hearing to explain his conduct. And scrolling down, we have the Ozpol Bulletin Facebook page published an article on Friday the 8th of April 2022 claiming the 3 directors of the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited are also the directors of a similar foundation, that the Overton Creative Consulting PL is the company behind them. Julie and Andrew Overton are listed as the other directors of the foundation, whose ABN number is as follows, along with Chris Ian James Hartley. What is really curious about this trio is that we have discovered they are all directors of yet another limited by guarantee company, which is also listed as a not-for-profit. The King's Cup Organising Committee, Ltd, with the following ABN number, was registered on the 5th of February 2019. It has the exact same 3 directors, the Overtons and David Hartley. Julie Overton is listed as the secretary. There is clearly much more to this story than meets the eye. And he has a click here to read more after that sentence. I'll let you guys dig deeper if you're interested. On the face of it, it looks like a standard fraud and theft of a taxpayer's money being funneled through a charity. Where have we seen this before? I wrote an article on the 13th of February titled Scott Morrison, Hillsong Mate, Lee Coleman, an alleged fraudster and crook set to break $100 million in government contracts, which starts off in 2020. I wrote that Scott Morrison, Hillsong Mate, Lee Coleman, was awarded $43 million in government contracts, and I can report that the amount for government contracts now stands at $94.9 million since 2016. Scott Morrison and others in government have accelerated the fraud and theft of government assets before they are kicked out of government. Lee Coleman uses a company called ServeGate Australia, which is also a registered tax-free charity, and its operations are suspicious to say the least, where they don't seem to do much work except take a percentage off the top and then subcontract the real work out to other companies. Again, we have a click here for that one. And below is a quick video of the Paladin scam titled Peter Dutton claims he knows nothing about the contract awarded to beach shack security firm Paladin. And I'm going to play this video for you now.
Government officials have been grilled about awarding a security contract to a company based out of a Kangaroo Island beach shack. Paladin, which handles security for asylum seekers on Manus Island, didn't even have the money to begin work when it was given hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars.
This tiny shack on South Australia's Kangaroo Island was the registered address for Paladin, a security company that had almost no assets until it was handed almost $500 million of taxpayer money.
There is no specialty in this company, and indeed there's also questions as to connections to the PNG government.
And those questions are just the beginning, as officials from the Department of Home Affairs are grilled in Senate estimates about why contracts to provide security for asylum seekers on Manus Island have been given to Paladin. It's not the first time the government has been in hot water for handing over lots of cash without an open and competitive process.
First the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, now the Paladin Group. I mean, it's another day and another $500 million given away.
When it comes to the Paladin saga, the coalition is once again pointing the finger at the department. 10 News First understands that Peter Dutton visited Papua New Guinea just weeks before the first contract was handed out, but the minister maintains he had no part in the tender process.
Handing out $423 million, then saying, that's got nothing to do with me, it's my department. Well, hello, Peter, you're the minister.
But the government maintains the reason it has to spend so much on border security is because of what Labor did when it was in power.
Very costly issues, and that's as a consequence of Labor's failings on our borders.
Phoebe Bowden for 10 News First.
The irony of this scandal is that we know now about it because it was in the 2022 federal budget that was delivered last week, and the budget was meant to help Morrison and the government win the election due in May. But now the budget is looking like it could put Prime Minister Scott Morrison and the Governor General David Hurley in jail if Labor win power at the next election and introduce a federal ICAC. Jail time for Scott Morrison is even more of a possibility when you look at my last article. How much did Scott Morrison personally make from Australia's failed submarine deal, given he made sure his mates Peter Costello and David Gazzard made millions? Some people on social media are incorrectly claiming that the Governor General David Hurley and his wife are Pentecostals. They are not Pentecostals, and the confusion seems to have come from an article on Crikey where they talk about the Governor General rubber stamping an award for Margaret Court, who is the founder and pastor for a Pentecostal church. The matter won't be going away anytime soon and will likely become an election issue. Okay, so we have comments below, and yeah, this will all be linked in the description. And let me know what you think. Has Scott Morrison overstepped his boundaries and abused his power as Prime Minister? If so, what do you think should happen? And do you think the opposition will get in? And if so, will they hold Scott Morrison and David Hurley and others to account for these actions? Will they at least start an investigation, do you think? Let me know, leave a like, share, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you all on the next video.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me.